字叫欧弘毅，我是一名17岁的纯素者和气候活动家。我们每周5都会在街上进行倡议，还有通过线下的演讲的方式提高公众的意识。在中国政府落实巴黎协定之前，我们不会停止我们的气候罢课运动。
是要捐钱吗？
不是，就只是让大家意识到这个问题。对，
谢谢。
炭烤榴莲又香又甜。
做这个行动就是让大家意识到，我们现在这个温度在上升，自然灾害可能会导致资源的更加不均衡。我们现在已经到了一个非常危险的地方，也就是这是叫丝球效应，也就是在温度和湿度上升到一定的极限的时候，在这个系统里面就会爆发一个转折点，这个转折点会带来大规模的物种的集体死亡。
那你打算在全球也能死掉了？
不是全球人死掉了，是会有越来越多的洪水。
啊，我知道你的意思了。我是搞耶稣的。这。
不是耶稣。但有一些人他们可能不会理解。宣传的目的就是让人们首先是受到视觉上的冲击，了解到我们现在处在这个第6次物种大灭绝当中，这样的洪水会越来越多，因为这个全球变暖，非常多农民他们的这田地全部都被淹了。阳朔本地的话，你知道就是阳朔洪水让
他们的，
谢谢。我写了一个提高环保意识，觉知产生多少垃圾，还有一个有一群伙伴可以坚持督促自己运动，强健体魄。山水阳朔，行动让它更美，以及洁净的空气、清洁的水，以及充足的食物，这些都是大自然给我们的馈赠，也是所有生命的基础。这里有一点海。然后这里是沙滩，然后一直延伸到这个位置，然后这里有一些树木，这后面是天空，然后这个是一个淡淡的背景，并且我们要给予爱和感恩给我们每一个遇到的人，给我们说的每一句话，还有就是所有的一切万物都是相连的，宇宙会回应我们的意念，无论这个意念是善还是恶。我坐在那个海滩旁边画这个的时候，就有人就过来问我，小心，有人过来问我在画的是什么？我是学生吗？然后我就说这个活动是每天都进行的，而且不仅有学生，还有职场人士，每天都会来参加我们这个环保净滩的活动，所以欢迎大家。就不管是带着自己的孩子，还是
我们是父母，
找到了什么？
哇哦！
用这个机会来传达环保，还有爱护环境的这种观念给孩子。很多家长也是非常希望通过这个机会来让孩子能够认识到我们这个自然的美丽，还有保护自然环境的重要性。快点，一会儿打石头啊！还有我。有一个时刻让我感受到我重新回归了自然，我在大自然里面感受到了桂林这个地方，它从小到大一直都是在用它的山水，在用它所有的一切清洁的空气、充足的食物和洁净的水，这些所有生命最基础、最必须的东西。我那时候也有很强烈的一种情感，也就是我意识到了中华传统文化它带来的古人的这样的智慧，它教会我们与自然和谐相处，并且重新去寻找到每个人与自然那种与生俱来的链接，重新去思考人类与自然的关系，以及人类现在这种 高科技现在这种急速发展的状态，是否是真正的可持续和有韧性的？气候这两个词不能够激发人们的兴趣，只有很少的人受过一些关于气候的教育，他们了解气候意味着社会的崩溃以及生态系统的物种灭绝，他们才会对气候这两个字有所认知。而对于其他的很多人来说，气候不如环保这个词给他们带来的这种冲击更大，他们不理解气候是什么意思。所以就待会在那里，他们说我们不能影响到公共的交通，然后就是做公益宣传可以，不过要在路边进行宣传。
这是宣传什么的？
你这个是什么意思啊？环保啊，
环保的。
环保气候要跟
环保有这么宣传的吗？有点不对吧？这写的什么呀？
你们应该在学校。
下边这是什么呀？
是新来。在我的微博上面接收到了非常多中国网友的对于我行动的不理解和批判。我可以理解他们的这种不理解，因为气候这个问题在中国被讨论的并不是很多。而非暴力运动在中国历史上也有非常多成功的实践，比如说五四运动，当时我们的这样的中国的年轻人，这些都是我们中国人的传统和习惯，而我们现在已经忘掉了这样的传统。我们应该去做这件事情，只因为这件事情应该被做，只因为这件事情是对的。我们不去考虑我们是否
Who hikes and loses a shoe and doesn't notice?
俗话说天下兴亡，匹夫有责，这句话我们真正的理解了吗？现在全世界整个人类社会面临着社会崩溃以及几十亿人因为饥饿而死的这种风险。在一位教授他的一个私人信件里面会发现，他的研究表明，在本世纪至少有40亿人会因为气候危机而死去。
我啊，你看后面啊，从旁边拉嘛。
我先做一个自我介绍。我是一名17岁的一个高中生，然后也是一名纯素者。我现在每周6的话，一般会在咖啡厅放映气候变化的电影。
You cannot actually be happy after a certain point unless you go into some sort of service to something other than material satisfaction.
我自己也会给予一个演讲。
And people say the same thing, right? I knew, and now I'm going to do something.
我们现在可以来讨论一下，如果愿意参与的朋友，就是可以坐在一个空的桌子上，我们一起来讨论一下。谢谢。
有别的来一起维护全球变暖的一些做法吗？
有啊，可以加入我们对，你可以看一下我们的资料，可以写一下这个调查问卷吗？新鲜水果制作的给你们支持。没有填完，
还要填吗？
这要填完。我们现在生活方式是否是有毒的？整个系统是不是有问题的？我们是否需要通过这样激进的手段去改变现在这个社会？我们已经破坏了1/3的地球上的这个雨林，而且必须要从今天停止这一切生态屠杀。我们现在处在这个气候紧急情况，是可以在短时间内让人类的社会进行急剧的崩溃的，让数以百万计的人死亡，整个社会崩塌。现在这些大人们不负责任、自私的这种后果，这些大人们还让我们孩子去给予解决方案。大家想想这个问题吧，我们需要去承担你们的责任， 我们需要去承担你们这种不行动的后果，我们还负责给你们希望，给你们解决方案，不可能。我们只有用我们的声音，用我们的道德权威，去让你们被迫的，或者是让你们真正的感化和受到激励，通过我们进行自我牺牲的这样的行为，让你们真正的感化和受到激励，去改变这个社会。因为只有你们现在有能力去改变现在的经济和社会的系统。我非常欢迎大家私信我，大家可以关注我的微博，还有我的推特、Instagram 这样的社交账号，持续的接收到我们气候行动的这样的信息。大家也可以在网上搜索吉恩夏普博士的非暴力运动的理论，在 YouTube 上面和我们马上就要新建的绿色长城青年气候行动的微信公众号上面搜索 Extinction Rebellion 反抗灭绝的演讲还有培训。在线下呢，大家可以把这个学习到的内容，今天学习到的内容分享给朋友，去亲自的跟朋友家人去复述一遍学习到的这样非暴力气候行动和气候危机的内容。这样的讨论可以让我们自己加深印象，并且有更多的理解。最关键的一点是感受到自己是一个行动者，参与本地的 XR 或者是 Fridays for Future 的分布。如果说没有的话，那就自己去建立它嘛，这一点都不困难。在网上我们有各种各样的资源，我们都可以将这些打包发给你们。
Oh, yeah, it's all over my hand. After plastic sits around long enough, you can see how it just breaks down. Like all these little pieces will continue to break down and get smaller and smaller and smaller, but they don't really go away. They just become unnoticeable and they continue existing. They get into our rivers, which go into our oceans, which go into our fish, and they go into us. So this is why you should help and why you should care.
并且在线下去进行一些最简单每个人都可以进行的活动，比如说在夜市上面摆摊，或者说是在街上进行宣传，或者是简简单单的在学校、在公司、在办公的场所进行一个给。
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for attending this exchange online event with Chinese Fridays for Future Activists OE. In this pandemic situation, my name is Liu Dejun. I think most of you already know it. That Chinese name is switched. My family name is Liu. So my how to say, my first name is Dejun. I'm the founder of an NGO called Human Rights for China. Yeah, because in even when renewable environment is very important human rights. Therefore, we initiate this event. Our dear guests are from different cities, different groups, but all care about climate or environment actions. I would like to especially introduce two guests. One is Dr. Mike Kreuzberg. He has begun to involve environment actions in the DDR time in East Germany. After the reunion of Germany, he worked further for environment in Germany and also in Africa, Southeast Asian, and he was persecuted by the Stasi, secret service in the DDR. He is also very active with issues about China. He's also a member of our NGO. And another guest is Dr. Professor Christian Kupfer. He worked many years in China as a research researcher and independent journalist, and we have known each other in China. The most worth story I would like to share with you is that Christian inspired me with the idea Stammtisch. For OE, that is in Chinese is 固定餐桌, which means a regular meeting in restaurants or bars. As you know, the internet platform or social media are in China censored. Some are blocked. We had only that time we had only Twitter uncensored to communicate with each other. So then I thought we should do something with Twitter. So I talked to Christian about this plan, and she suggested the idea of Stammtisch. She said, yeah, it's a very traditional, very typical tradition in China, in Germany. And I found this idea is excellent and posted on Twitter to ask others Chinese, and then others found it's also very good. So we started to meet each other every weekend to talk about human rights, talk about social movement, and then this Stammtisch is now, in short, sometimes I come use English and German, spirit in the whole China. Even now, it's a very important strategy of social movement in China. I can say that Christian had a profound impact on Chinese civil movement. Thank you very much, Christian. And this event will be now held by hosts Louisa and Alex. I hope you enjoy the speeches and the discussion.
Hi again from my side. I'm Luisa. I'm a medicine student in Erlangen in Germany, and I know Dijun, and that's why I know OE, and that's why I started together with the other two, the group FFF Support China. And yeah, so we try to connect, and we try to have the discussion about only the climate activism in our two countries to inspire each other.
Yes, warm welcome from my side as well. I'm Alexei, I use they, them pronouns. I am a member of Amnesty International Freiburg and also part of the Fridays for Future support group. And yeah, I'm very happy that I got to meet OE through Dijun as well. And I'm very happy you all joined this event today. So yeah, let's start right away. I'd like to welcome our very first guest, Ui. She's China's first climate activist and also the founder of Fridays for Future China. And Ui has been speaking up about the climate crisis since around May 2019. And tonight she will talk about China's environmental situation and also about her activism. So thank you very much for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this event, and especially thanks to Louisa, Alex, and Zejun for organizing this. And so my name is Oyi, and I'm a 18-year-old vegan and zero waster, also a climate activist from Fridays for Future China. And for the past 1.5 years, I have been coordinating the Fridays for Future China. And recently I came to Germany and to know more about how the movements work here. And I'm really grateful that all of you can come here and to share your experience. of running the movement here. Yeah. So today I would like to talk for 3 aspects, and the first aspect is that in how I see the Chinese government it is acting on the climate, and the second it is how China it is affected by the climate change, and the third it is what is the Chinese people's awareness of the climate and how Chinese people act on this, especially what the Fridays for Future China movement act in China. Yeah, so first, I would like to start from a news that maybe probably most of you know, that on last September, China announced that it will be carbon neutral at 2060, and I know that from Kevin Anderson, the professor in Manchester University, reveals that it is not enough, because only if China become neutral at 2050, it will hit the 1.5 global warming targets. And also from Chinese scientists, from a report come out from 2018, the Beijing University and Energy Research Institute cooperated to finish a report, and that report shows that China has the ability to stop building new coal power plants at 2020, and should ban the killing curve of the carbon emissions right now, and in 2030 China should reduce 40% of the carbon emissions than the level of today. Yeah, so as far as I know, in some provinces like Guangxi and in Shanghai, the government still announced that there are new coal power plants planned to build. So that shows that these promises are still a very empty words that far into the future, but the governments haven't shown enough willingness to act right now, and it is still just talk, but there is no real actions. And on another part about how the government treats the science, as far as I know, because people know about the climate from the education it receives and from the information it receives. In how I see the Chinese government, interruption. So from the information people received, there are 2 resources. One, it is the formal education, that people receive education from school, from the textbooks, and another, which is the informal education, which is people receive the information from newspapers, from radios, from teachers, from families, from friends, these kind of sources. And for the formal education, as far as I know, is that I predicted there are 1,300 lessons from primary school to high school. And among all these lessons that Chinese students got, there are only less than 2 lessons or just several hours that talking about the climate. And it's only mentioned in geographic book and for some time. And in the informal education, on the news, I always see that the environmental protection thing are only set in a very corner space, and in Chinese people daily lives, there are no people talking about this. Yeah, so this is how I see that Chinese government, real action from the energy part, and also another, it is how government treats the science. So next I would like to talk about how Chinese people are affected by the climate change right now, and especially about the water resources in China. So we know that Tibetan, Qinghai Tibetan Plateau, it is the third pole on Earth, other than the North and the South Pole. And in Qinghai Tibetan Plateau, we know it is the sources of many rivers in the Asia, like the Yellow River and Yangtze River, and like the and all other rivers that go across like Southeast Asia and South Asia, that provided 2 billion people the water, the basic essential to life. And the scientists shows that in 2050, 80% of the river wide of those rivers which come from the Qinghai Tibetan Plateau will have the water scarcity. And we know these places are have less infrastructures that can confront these natural disasters, and also it has a really high population density. So it is really, it will be really hard situation for these places if we do not change the current way of our economics. And for the local situation in Guilin, in the hometown I come from, it is that the water administration minister of our city predicted that in 2050, our mother river, Li River in Guilin, will be totally run out of water, because there is a mountain besides Guilin, and after 2008, which is a tipping point, there is no permanent ice and no permanent, there is no any snow in the winter. So if there is no snow in the winter, then it actually cuts the source of the underground water. And we know underground water will need 80 to 100 years to from the above the ground water to underground water. So it will cut a lot of sources that to fulfill the underground water, fulfill the underground water and above the ground water, like the Li River. And so it will affect the local people's livelihoods and production a lot. And other than the water resources, I will also like to talk about the so-called natural disasters in my local city, Guilin. Just in last year in Guilin, we face the biggest floods among the last 200 years, and even old people like in their 80s reminded that it is the largest floods they have ever seen in their lives. And those shops and fields are all destroyed. And the most shockingly is that I visited a household in the fields of Yangshuo, and their wooden house, are flushed away for 20 meters, and now they are just stay in a house that's built by some wooden boards and some plastic boards. And when I talk to them, I just feel they are so helpless that seems the whole societies don't even give a glance to them. And it is really sad to see that, to hear that on that morning when the flood come, they are all run away to higher places. And when they come back, all the crops that they produce in the hard time or pandemic are all destroyed. And yeah, so it is really sad. Sorry. Sorry, there is an internet cut. Yeah, it is really sad to know their story, and it is even more sadder to know that when I talk to them about the climate, and I ask them if they know what causes this, and if they know that they are the most vulnerable people in the society, and they actually give the a really small amount of contribution to the global warming, but they affected the most. And they say they are just don't know anything about burning the coal and oil, and also the gas will cause the climate change. Yeah, so I would like to so about the aspects of how Chinese people know about the climate, I would like to share a report that I recently read. It is the first report that give a mass survey to the young Chinese people about how their climate awareness and climate behavior is, that come out on the end of 2020, produced by the China Youth Climate Action Network, which is the biggest climate action network in China. And the report shows a very shocking data, which is so the report have an example of over 5,000 of undergraduates and graduated students that age range is 18 to 24, and they are based in the universities and institutions in first tier or second tier or third tier cities, which are relatively more developed in more rural areas. And the data shows that over 60% of them think themselves comparatively know a lot about the climate change, but over 50% of them think the global temperature rise, think the climate crisis are caused by a hole in the atmosphere, which is absolutely wrong statement. So it is really shocked, and it also reveals that how the Chinese people's climate awareness is. And I think it is a result that in the level of formal education and informal educations, there are not so many materials that to educate people, and even there are no basics materials to support the science. So I would like to talk about like how my activism in China and what is the reaction from my parents and my family, and also what's the society and authorities react. So first I would like to show you some photos about the actions in China. I'm not sure if it is clear enough to see that.
It's okay.
Yeah, good. This is sitting protest. This is a dying protest, sorry. So Fridays for Future China acts in a lot of varied ways. Like we advocating on the streets, we protest by planting, or we go plogging, which is pick up rubbish when you run. And we also do some nationwide actions, which activists in different cities all go to protest at the same day with the same demand. And here it is some documentary screening and offline panels. Yeah. So with these actions, we also face some oppressions, and also with the international media's help to spread this, we also arouses a lot of discussions on the internet. Like we have already arouses maybe 3 times of large discussions on Chinese internet, and every one of them have over 100,000 of people views it. So recently, 5 of our accounts of Fridays for Future China were blocked, and even Chinese Communist Party Youth League criticize us as climate strike and or foreign forced influence. But I would like to clarify and state it once again then that this movement, it is non-partisan, and we are not commenting anything else than the climate, because we see the climate emergency, it is biggest threat to the human civilization, and whatever the political stands are, we must unite behind science. Yeah. So for the aspects of my parents is that they have been very worried before, and recently they become an attitude of passively support. And to my school is that I have been kicked off from Harvard summer school, which took place in China before, because I researching the projects called how to find a more proper way to develop the climate strike movement in China. And I also even seems like really radical in the climate or environmental movement itself, like the China Youth Climate Action Network, which is the biggest climate NGO that I mentioned before. rejected me to enter the climate summit because they see me very dangerous. Yeah. And also I would, yeah. And also my school rejected me from going back because the activism. But apart from this, I also like to remind all of us that there is still a very large space for doing the activism in China. And by seeing all these amazing photos by young people all around China, we can really see that with this very small amount of effort, we have made millions of people all around the world to discuss about the climate. And just imagine if we all unite behind science, what we can do. Yeah. So right now I would like to end my presentation, and yeah, thank you all for coming once again. Yeah.
Thank you, Uwe, for your talk. And I'm also looking at the YouTube live stream right now, and we have some questions and a lot of great comments thanking you for your work and all of your members, because you told me you're already about more than 100 people at FFF China. So you're big and growing, which is very good. And I also got some questions. And they're saying you're brave. You all are brave, which is really good. One question is, how can we help right now, being in Germany, trying to support you in your country, which is pretty different from our country and our system?
Because this is a global movement, and we know that if you start your own activism here and you mobilize people here to take more actions on the climate, it already helped me a lot. Actually, I don't want to say like this helped me, because this is a thing that all of us have to do. It is not my movement, or yeah. And another channel is that you can join the Tank program, which is one Chinese activist connect with international activists, and they call every week to enhance the understanding of the climate crisis and to see if they can help each other and to enhance the understanding of the climate action itself. Yeah, and I can send you the link to the comments.
Perfect. Another question was, how many cities in China have local Fridays for Future groups already?
There are about 10. Yeah.
And where is it, like big cities, or is it smaller cities?
It is always the provincial capital, if that's correct. Like in Nanjing, in Shanghai, and Kunming, and Suzhou, and also Guilin. It has some people, but currently they really need to do more offline actions and to do the community work that let everyone have a space to share their ideas about how urgent the climate is.
Okay, now I look around in our Zoom group. Everybody's still a bit quiet. Nobody raised their hand, but yeah, we would be happy to answer some questions from your side. Yeah, Michael?
Yeah, first of all, I'm very impressed from your report. It's very amazing what you are doing under the special conditions. Was there any action of police when you did outdoor activities, or you just watched it?
Thank you for your question. So when we advocating on the streets in Guilin, we for me personally, I will choose some places that have lots of people, and like outside the library, there are some young students who may be well educated, and some old people, they will pass by when they walking. And in these kind of places, the police just or the street management, they are just warned and ask us to leave. But in some cities, like in Shanghai, it's comparatively hard to do the activism, because once 4 activists from different cities in China all went to Shanghai to do the activism, and we got arrested because we just attached the badges of the climate action to our shoulders. So it will be different in different places. Yeah.
One question in the chat. Are you afraid to return to China?
I would say no, because I know that only doing the offline actions in China can really help Chinese people to raise the climate awareness. And what I'm doing here is to know more about how the climate emergency affects people and how the movement's going. But I know I have a great responsibility to let more Chinese people and let more people to really act. So I would say no. Thank you for the question.
Okay, next question I have to read first. The hope in China's companies, as they have to fulfill the ESG, especially the environmental goals right now. So do you put hope in those companies? And do you think they can help or support your case?
I would say in my personal point of view, but not stand for the Fridays for Future China movement. Is that I don't really believe in the green growth, and I believe that we must have a full transition about our face about the GDP and the economic growth, because the real economic growth, it is benefits all the people, and it enhance people's happiness, but not just the numbers growth. Yeah.
Another question from YouTube. Do you think there's a possibility to link the climate discourse with air pollution and with nutrition? So yeah, nutrition, eating a lot of meat, which I saw was rising year by year in China. Yeah.
I would say the trend, it is on both sides, because I've learned that in last 2 years the vegetarian meats and like the vegan burgers are more popular in China and being introduced in China, and there are some exhibition about the vegan products like introduced in China in these 2 years, and it is increasing. And on the other side, I know that for the total consumption of the meat, it is still growing, and it is a not very good trend that Chinese people meat eating diets. It is growing from small animals to big animals, which is not good for the climate, because it's good to do the opposite. I'm not sure if this answers your question. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, if we don't have any questions right now, we will continue with Tobias Holle. He is an activist at FFF Germany, and he's responsible for public and international relations, especially the EU. So, hello, Tobias.
Yes, hi, thank you. Thank you very much, Louis, for your presentation, for all your work, for all your all the actions you're doing. It's really, really impressive, I think. So yeah, I was asked to speak a little about the European Union and the structures at FFF. So I wanted to make a case or build it up why and how we built a European structure. I wouldn't say we have a complete European structure, but we have kind of a structure, and maybe it helps not the big parts of it, but maybe some details for you or for some others to just get some ideas, some thoughts out of it. We have a totally different situation. We have a different political situation. We have a different structure of the governments. But maybe there's some specific ideas that can help you and at FFF China. So actually my work for FFF Europe, that's not really existing, but on the European level, started in the end of 2019, and actually it started with the European Green Deal, or the presentation of the European Green Deal. And that's the Green Growth Strategy by the European Commission. And this is a really big action program by the European Union and the industry strategy to change actually the whole way we are having our carbonized infrastructure, and they want to decarbonize it until 2050. And it started by, or my engagement in on the European level started actually by accident, because I was just talking to a friend from Austria. We were in contact because of another project. And then he asked me, okay, what are we doing about the European Union? Because the European Union is really, really important. I will come to that a little later. And then we asked all the people we knew in Germany and in Switzerland, in Austria and other countries. And we tried to get some contacts, and they said, okay, there's nothing happening on this. So we're actually having maybe some specific actions, but not really some kind of strategy, some kind of idea what we're doing about the European Union. And so we just started and wanted to get some technical information about the European Green Deal. That was that's actually the main strategy the European Union is following now, or especially the European Commission. So we got together all the information we needed, and it was pretty much, because, as I said, it's a whole strategy for Europe. Every regulation, every law have to be revised, and hopefully they will be overworked to be more climate, or to act on climate change, and also on biodiversity loss. So we started the first month to just digging deep in the European Union, stuff, the European Green Deal, and also other more methodical questions. So what are we going to do? How we can get in contact with each other? Because as you know, we have some people that are more on the media from FFF in Germany, but also in other countries. So we have these people, and for example, from a congress in August 2019, some knew each other, but there was no real structure. And we wanted to have as many countries from as many regions from the European Union and also a little outside, like Switzerland, Norway, and Ukraine in it. And we wanted to get this together, but we needed some kind of project, because if we put people together and they don't have a purpose, that won't change anything, and they will just lose focus, and they will just abandon the project. So we wanted to make the climate law the first big project, and wanted to do more about lobbying. So that was the first question: why is the EU not sexy for activists? And the answer was, there are so many different things like regulations, incentives. It's really complicated. We have the European Commission, we have the European Council. These are the government. That's pretty hard. We have the Parliament, and all these structures make it really hard to get deeper and closer to the core of the decisions that are being made. We have the trilogue, where all these three institutions, Council, Commission, and Parliament, come together. And it's so far away from the people, also from the activists in for example, in Munich, at my place in Aachen, and they know about the European Union, or many people know about the European Union, but it's so theoretical, and it doesn't have to do, or at the first sight, it's not connected to anything they are doing right now. So we needed to connect it somehow, but we knew there are not so many people who will be interested in changing anything, or who will be interested in really going and digging deep. So we wanted to create a network with each country in many different from many different regions. We accomplished this we had nearly every country. I think Cyprus was a little hard, and some other countries, but we nearly got all European countries. Then we get together a group, and then we had some meetings, and introduced them how to lobby. We wrote a big paper about how to lobby. We gathered it together by the advisors of CAN, the Climate Action Network Europe, by Greenpeace and all other organizations. We put it together. We read papers, put it together. We had the technical stuff, and we wanted them to engage about the climate law, to talk about with the politicians, with the member of the European Parliament. And some countries did it, some did not. But it was really cool, really good to see, to have, for example, in the first calls, like 30 people that were really engaging and wanted to, from 15 different countries, to engage in their own country or with their own MEPs, so member of European parliaments, to change something that was quite technical, not that easy to approach. And this was pretty cool. But after some month, like after the climate law and after the agriculture campaign, we supported the agriculture campaign in Germany, and I think Brussels, YFC Belgium, Youth for Climate Belgium, is pretty active in there. And then after this time, we wanted to reactivize the group for an open letter. The open letter was about the European Council in December 2020. We wrote in this channel where we gathered together all the countries and had, I think, contact person to like 20, 25 countries. And I think 3, 4 answered, because some of them were not active anymore. Some of them didn't see the message because they didn't look on Telegram. And this was pretty, on the one hand, it was pretty sad to see how fast this is going. But on the other, it was pretty easy to get together 20 countries again. So what I want to say is, if there's a purpose that we want to change something or just want to raise awareness something on the European level, it's the same with the Take Down the Cap, so the agricultural campaign. I wrote this cap down at first. It's really, really easy if you have the people to come together for the projects. It's really hard to keep them all the time, to keep them active, step and go every step with them. But if you have a core group that is really working, that is working on the technical stuff, that are developing methods, they want to connect, they communicate. Now we're like 4, 5, 6 people who want to keep this alive. And if there's a project, then we know how to get together with like 20, 25 other countries. We're also in contact with NGOs, with European NGOs, with youth NGOs. We have contacts to a think tank, a big think tank in the US. They support us with their knowledge. So, and it's all like done by just, let's connect, let's put together what we have for one project. And if there are just some people that building the base, then they can be, or other people can be reactivated really quick. And this is what I get out of this. If these people exist that build the base, then you just need a project and you just need some experience. And if you have this, you can come together and you can really build big projects, have good influence and advocacy, for example, in the European Union. And it's good to know that we can do the things that fast, because, for example, we gathered together the 20 countries for the open letter in December in less than 2 weeks. So if we are really into something, we really want to do something, then we know how to do it. And it's pretty impressive to see how many people want to do the same. And yeah, maybe that's the conclusion. So you can plan so many things, and it's pretty tough sometimes. But if you keep going and you get some experience, then if you're willing to do something, if you have the right projects, you have the right aims, you can really engage many people in many different regions, because we all have the same purpose. We wanna change the politics. We wanna act in climate.
Thank you very much for your very interesting input. Yeah, are there any questions directly to Tobias? I'm just gonna check YouTube as well. Okay, are there any questions within our Zoom room for now? If not, you can also always ask in the end. Okay. Oh, I see Vincent has a question. Yes, please.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we've had any experience so far which actors should be targeted, or which actors can be targeted so it's most effective from, this weird kind of jungle and triangle of these European institutions, and yeah, how we as activists can influence this bureaucratic process.
It's a good question. It's a tough question. So it really depends on where the process is. In the beginning of, if there are some proposals by the European Commission, it's good to target the European Commission. For example, Franz Timmermans, Ursula von der Leyen. But the most easy way is to target the European Parliament, because the European Parliament is I would say, more progressive than, for example, the German parliament, but also other national parliaments. We have climate targets in the European Union, or we're discussing climate targets right now that won't be possible to achieve in each national country. So the parliament, even if there are other institutions that have a big power, and they are underestimated actually. The European Council is really hard. You can target it in action. In actions, you have to target it, but it consists of 27 countries and 27 governments, and targeting them, and they have to, in many decisions, they have to have a consensus. So it's really hard to convince all of them to do something more. So I would say at some point the European Commission, but then you have to pick out the right people. If you want to target more and broader, then the parliament is the right target. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, we could continue with Vincent anyway, because he would be our next speaker to just talk a little bit about his work. He's an activist in Lüneburg.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because right now I'm in Lüneburg, but until this summer, this autumn, I've worked in Nuremberg, so I have kind of the comparison between two local groups. And maybe one thing I can quickly talk about is how on the local level different climate groups get connected and try to kind of develop a shared strategy and also more of a shared vision, a shared strategic plan maybe. Because this is something I'm doing a lot in Lüneburg right now. So when I moved here, there has already been this kind of alliance of, I think, 15 different groups like Fossil Free, Extinction Rebellion, Ende Gelände, and others, very local groups, which exist only in Lüneburg. But the alliance has been kind of inactive, so it's been more like regular meetings. But right now we're really in this process of trying to get to know each other better and trying to like develop shared strength. And I personally, from my experience in Nuremberg, where we've had this alliance as well, believe that this can actually, like, it can have a lot of impact when you don't act so in a disconnected way, but when you actually try to combine your strengths and target like specific local actors as well, and try to really push together in like one huge effort. So for example, you could develop like local demands, think of what the municipal governments, all these like municipal institutions, local institutions can do, even though there is of course this lack of federal and like sufficient federal legislations, but still how they can kind of try to fill the spaces which are being left for them. And then when you have this kind of combined strength of different expertises, of different skills, of different networks, then you can kind of try to create your demands and then make them public, go to the press, go into discussions with your local politicians. And I think this is all kind of a way of trying to build up change from the ground. Like, of course, it's a different thing whether you speak to Angela Merkel or to a local politician. But when you start changing the things on the ground, on the local level, when you also try to connect to people which are not so much into climate activism yet, then I think this can kind of slowly influence things from the bottom up. So like majorities and parties shift, opinions and parties shift. Slowly you have kind of these change agents, changing cities who move forward and show the levels at the top, like the federal level, how much is possible, and that they're actually like willing to like start this transformation. Yeah, so of course this doesn't make all the other stuff we're doing redundant, but as personally, I believe in the value of connecting things on the ground and on, yeah, trying to just build up this very strong base and, yeah, on this bottom-up transformation.
So to summarize, you would maybe for OE as well, interesting stuff is to get the people that are on the edge of becoming more interested or becoming activists, and not waste your time fighting those who are just not, and who are not going to become in the next few years. And I could also say, for me, for the medicine students, health is always the thing to get people to listen to you, because it's about your health. So maybe you could also think about you and your family, etc.
Yes and no, because I think sometimes the people who seem very unlikely to get into climate issues in the end turn out to do so. But so yes and no, yeah. But I think the other big lesson is that, like, if you are engaged in a local group, then it's really worth trying to connect to different climate groups. Like, there's not only Fridays for Future, there's so much expertise also, and so much experience in the questions we're dealing with as well, and a lot to learn from. So yeah, if there's a local group you might be involved with, or if you have contact to local groups, then it's really, really valuable. Also getting connected to other climate groups.
Yes, I think Michael has a question. Yes, please.
Yeah, it's more a comment. I think what Vincent said is very important and very true. You have to start from the bottom up, and you have to make networking with local people. Then you can get success later. So, and this is very important, to find these people on the ground and to show them you are involved in this process. And then they will cooperate with you, and they will do something. Normally, people react only if they personally are involved. And so health could one of these points, as Luisa said. If they feel the bad air, they will act something. But the motivation and creating the awareness from bottom up, this is the only way, I think.
Are there any more questions or comments?
Okay, then we could have our 5-minute break.
I think there just came in a question from Lorenz. I can just read it out quickly. Do you think creating change from bottom up will be quick enough with this issue?
I mean, this is always this is the argument with which you can kind of destroy every theory of change, or every attempt to change something, that there's not enough time left. Because I could throw the ball back at all those thinking that we can only make a top-down transformation and say, all right, I mean, this is not going to work. The people need to be in there, right? You can't change politics, you can't change society against the people, right? I personally think that it's a complementary issue. Of course, there's time pressure, and of course, we need things to move very quickly. But how are we going to make things move real quick, right? And I think there's different strategies, and they are complementing each other, and it's not a either or question. It's a question of different perspectives and different things which can be transformed through certain strategies, and other things that can't, right? So I personally don't believe in different strategies fighting against each other. I believe that this kind of multiplicity of accesses is super valuable. Yeah. And if you're not into, I don't know, talking to people, creating local change, then that's totally fine. Then you'll do something else. Yeah, but I personally don't think that trying to make one way of acting less valuable really helps in this issue. Yeah.
Okay. Cheers. He writes cheers. Okay, so we see us in about 5 to 7 minutes.
maybe one more remark. I think that being connected to other groups on your local level can also help you with various other forms of activism. So it does not exclusively, it's not exclusively good for also targeting local governments, but it can also, for example, when I'm with Fridays for Future and I exchange with people from Ende, I can learn a lot about civil disobedience, right? And that's valuable for different kinds of actions as well, and not only when I want to target my local government. Yeah, I hope it's a bit clearer now.
Yeah, we had one more question. How did you connect during Corona times, or still do, or mobilize new people? Yeah, how are your experiences?
Is it me who's being asked? I mean, in general, we met online, like our local group met online and our alliances met online, and I know it wasn't really cool, it's not really cool. It's not a replacement for meeting in person, but it's the best thing we can get. And then in regards to getting new people involved, I mean, actually in both in Lüneburg and in Nuremberg, there were kind of special situations through which the groups really grew. In Nuremberg, we had a climate camp. I don't know, I guess many people might have heard of them. Basically, it's a camp that's set in front of at an important part in the city, and activists literally stay there 24/7. And our camp in Nuremberg now, we set it up in September, and it's still there, and they even survived the minus degrees and degrees below zero and everything. And I think
Vincent, I'm very, very sorry to interrupt. Just very quickly, because when you go on talking, is the stream working now with the audio? Because I think there were some problems, and then you go on talking all about these very interesting things, and people can't hear you. I'm very sorry. Maybe we could try to. Very sorry to interrupt you. Maybe we could try to sort that out first. I don't know if it's working now. Can you hear me in the stream?
The stream audio issue is fixed already.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, then you can go on. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, right. So that camp in Nuremberg, I think it's now run by about 50 people who'd never been involved in any climate issues before. So it's just amazing how many people got involved through this camp. But I also see that it's kind of it's a huge effort to put it in place first time, right? So it might not be a strategy all local groups can use. And in Lüneburg, that was also kind of a special situation, because Lüneburg is a city with a lot of students. So naturally, in autumn, a lot of people who moved to Lüneburg to study there, people like me, started to get involved with Fridays for Future. But I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of activists here. I guess other people might share their experiences as well, and they might also be more involved into recruiting is the wrong word, but into trying to make the group larger, because I'm not really it's not really a huge part of my work with Fridays for Future.
Okay, thank you a lot, Vincent. Now we will continue with Laurenz. He's from Fridays for Future Hamburg, and he will talk more into detail.
Hi. So yeah, I over the time have been in very different positions from. Can you hear me? Yeah. Cool. Doing different work for Fridays for Future, and I'm in contact with Louis for about 2 years now, and I've thought a bit about how can we support the climate movement in China. And I'm going to go into a bit of conceptualizing, hopefully not too much. I'll try to keep it short. I think it's important to remember that we are a movement and we are a grassroots movement. What I mean by that is we're not an organization, we don't have membership. And when you remember like the first days, weeks or months inside Fridays for Future Germany, I think it's just natural for a grassroots movement that there is no plan. You learn things as you go. You learn things incredibly fast. And any rules that you may set up with any particular group of people that you might meet in the process of learning these things and then acting as a climate activist are on the terms of the people that agreed on it. And so I think, why is this important to remember? Fridays for Future got a lot of immediate presence, and it got a lot of media presence in Germany. It got a lot of media presence in Europe to some degree, not as Fridays for Future, maybe as the Sunrise Movement in the United States. But when it comes to countries that might have seen that from the outside, the thought might rise up that this is something that is originated over there, and that I think it's very important to point out that we are not in the position to give other people on the other side of the world that might be in a very different situation orders, or anything that feels like if you want to be part of this club, organization or something, then this is what you'll have to do. In contrast, what is kind of defining us as a movement is the common cause. The cause, meaning the action side, and the other side, which I think we learned over time in Germany, the people. And when you look at the structure, I've spent some time in the structure working group of Germany. When you look at the structure of Fridays for Future, that is reflected in that structure. We have two kinds of groups. We have local groups and we have working groups. Now, local groups, obviously they organize demonstrations, they do local actions, they will talk to local politicians, all that kind of things. But maybe most importantly, they connect people. If you have a problem, if you're not feeling well, if there's, all the socializing, getting to know people that will inform you. All that is mostly happening on the local level. That's what these groups are made for, in a way. Now, working groups, on the other hand, are groups that we created in the framework of a nationwide movement. The focus point of these is not where are you and who are the people around you, but what's the work that you want to do. And we have loads of them. If you're interested in them, unfortunately, I think they're only there in German language, so you might have to translate them from China, but you can look them up at the Fridays for Future .de for Germany website and have a look on what kind of different areas of work we would separate. But roughly speaking, I think even here we can say it follows a broad idea. And the broad idea is inform, get people to feel, and then get people to act. And for these things, we will then have, for instance, how do you inform people? Well, also, how do you get people not only to know facts, but to kind of care about them? You might have a group that creates graphics, a group that creates movies, a group that creates music, all kinds of things. The general idea being that if people know it and they feel it, then we can act. And the basic idea, it seems to me, is, or one basic question would be, does that formula apply in China as it does apply here? So maybe one step back. One thing that I think should be questioned or at least thought about is that all the solutions or the structural organizational solutions that we came up with to organize our cooperation here may not fit over there. And we might be very quick to assume that our way is the right way, and therefore, you know, it's best to do it that way that we do it. We have come with a couple of other people to the idea that a good metaphor, a good picture, so to speak, for our role as supporting FFF China would be to have something like a first aid kit that we can collect solutions in. If we run into a problem, might be a social problem, you know, about the well-being of people, you know, something that we learned about how to organize awareness in groups, how to do effective graphics in Facebook or Twitter, whatever we might have learned, we can put it in there. So the first aid toolkit, basically, that we can provide them is not to say, this is the rule book, this is how you have to do it, but it's, you may run into problems, and this is the problems that we documented and that we found solutions to, and these are the solutions that work best for us. So I think one thing, or maybe the most important thing to support China, and for that matter, other parts of the movement around the world, is to document if something did go wrong in your own work and translate it so that people can learn from it. Then there is the, I mean, one more thing about the conceptualization of groups that are social groups, groups that are working groups. I think that makes sense in the terms of whatever conceptualization one might choose. It's important to realize that people are involved and people have feelings and positions in the world. And on the other hand, we are here to get something done. Whether that has to be the case in China with the same solution that we have here, meaning social or mainly social local groups and nationwide working groups, I don't know. Maybe China is too big for that. Maybe not. Maybe it's also possible to have groups that are going from one mode to the other, that are switching between social and working mode. I think it's important to realize that any situation will provide or will need its own solution, and that the best we can do is provide lessons learned, information, and to some degree, and that is kind of, in my opinion, a bit of a harder topic to discuss, labor. For instance, if we have people that can translate our documents, that document, for instance, the structure we have, that document how we plan and execute any kind of actions. Our translators can translate that into Chinese. If we have people to know how to host a live session on YouTube, we can host live sessions, maybe not on YouTube. Granted, there is a cybersecurity issue there. But if we have people that know how to make flyers, how to create good posts, good content creation, basically, then we can help with that. So it might be worth thinking about connecting working groups that are working on that with other parts of the movement around the world. What I think is important to remember in these fields is that there is a likelihood of creating dependencies. If we, and that's also something that we learned inside our process in Fridays for Future Hamburg. I'm just going to give you a small example here. We had the very big demonstrations, the global demonstration. We had demonstrations in Hamburg, obviously, as well. And my task at the demonstrations was to organize the innen, which are the people that are from the movement and are the contact for the police from the one side and the other side from the protesters. And so we briefed them and we had to organize their actions and movements around those huge demonstrations. And after a while, we realized that I did this for one time and I did it for another time. And now I've become a bit of a specialist in it. And it's important at that moment, I think, to come up with some system. We tried out different ones. We tried out buddy systems, for instance. So I did it together with somebody else who then, after a while, took it over. Now, he kind of did it together with me, so I didn't have all the pressure on me, but he could profit from my experience. And then we kind of gradually extend the experience and knowledge that people have to solve certain problems. And the other thing, obviously, is to document things that you can pass on for others to read or consume in any other way. But I think it's important to have the eyes on that issue early on, because you may try out all different solutions depending on certain contexts, but there are a few issues that it might be good to look at the learnings from other groups early, and that is try to spread experience more or less equally, so that dependencies are not growing too fast. The other topics are security and privacy issues, but I don't think that YouTube is the best channel to talk about these things. So yeah, I'll just keep it with that, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your input. Yes, we also posted the pair tank into the chat, so maybe you can have a look at that. Yes, are there any direct questions to Lorenz?
So Lawrence just shared his experience about first he talked about the structure of like how local groups and national working groups work in Fridays for Future Germany, and how he sees the different roles of working and socializing inside the movement or the community. And also like he emphasized the importance of learning from each other, and especially to reflect what the movement have done, and also like try to have an output, whatever it is, documents or audio or video to make it can share, and it will be easier for people to translate and to share, and other movement can learn from it. And I think it's a very good sharing.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Are there any other questions? We'll also have a look at the YouTube chat. Okay, so if there are no other questions right now, before going on to our next guest, I would just very quickly like to talk about something that came up in the chat. Because yeah, it's true, we have lots of men talking here tonight, and not that many female voices speaking up. Yeah, but this is mostly due to the fact that we, while organizing the event, we basically contacted lots and lots of yeah, climate protection and environmental activist groups. And then yeah, they basically just send their representatives to the Zoom conference, and we did not really have an influence on who would speak, nor on their gender. So yeah, I'm very sorry if this raised some questions about mansplaining in any way. But yeah, I would just like to say that this is not our intention. And yeah, that we were just very, very happy to have that many people who would share their experiences with us. Yeah, I hope that's all right. And okay, then I think we can continue.
Yeah, with Michael Kreuzberg, who was working more in the last century. He was in the DDR, so in Eastern Germany, and started an environmental group there.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, and I hope it will not boring for you now to go back more than 30 years ago and to hear about my experiences. But there are similar conditions in China now, like we had in East Germany, and I will try to focus on the still existing similarities and problems. I know you are very young, and maybe not all of you know the history of Germany deep enough, but you can ask me if you don't understand anything. So I grew up in the German Democratic Republic, called GDR in English, or DDR in the German short form. The GDR was a result of World War II and controlled by the Soviet Union, that means by a Communist Party. And this Communist Party of the Soviet Union was the only political power. The leader at that time was Joseph Stalin, and you know he was very famous for his brutality with millions of victims. Parts of the former Union is Russia now, controlled by Putin, another dictator-like president, and it doesn't wonder if you know that he was a former officer of the secret service of the Communist Party in Soviet Union. So in East Germany, I studied biology, and I realized that the environment is under big threat in GDR, or was under big threat in the GDR, due to the bad economic conditions, lack of hard currency, bad policy, and the incompetence of the political leaders to handle the crisis. In the propaganda, there was no environmental crisis in the socialism. But everyone could see and smell and taste it. The devastation of the forests, the bad air, the polluted water, the increase of diseases like cancer in the regions where the chemical industry was concentrated. So this is similar to China today and to other countries in the world. The same problems you see. But if you listen to the official media, you could not find anything. If you followed the official newspapers or later the TV, it was a paradise, no problems. And this contradiction between the propaganda and the reality, combined with my knowledge as a scientist, this was the motivation for me to start grassroots activities for a better environment. I was aware that it was dangerous because there was a law about information policy in East Germany. According to that law, all data about the environment were secret. So you could not get any access to degree of water pollution or other things because it was under, it was forbidden to publish it. And the Secret Service, called the Staatssicherheit, was very powerful. A lot of people worked as police informers, voluntarily or under pressure. Letters and phones were controlled. But you must know at this time, there was no internet, no smartphones, only very few landline phones with some people. So it was very hard to make networking. But we tried by direct meetings or writing letters. But then when the Chernobyl disaster occurred in 1986, there was a repeatedly increase for the awareness of environmental problems. You know, this nuclear disaster in the Soviet Union, it was completely against official propaganda. How such a system could fail in such a disaster. It was against all theory we learned at school, but it happened. And now the people start more thinking about environmental things. And when Mikhail Gorbachev became the leader of the Communist Party at the time, the spirit of freedom arises. Maybe you remember that Gorbachev was the one who talked frankly about all the crimes of Stalin and the communists in the Soviet Union. So it was, we had the hope now it can be a change to a better future. And this was the motivation for me at the time. It was around 1985 to start a grassroots movement as a non-governmental organization. It was easy to find interested people at the time because everybody could see the problems. We used small actions first, like tree planting or collecting waste. And we discussed problems with the local authorities. This was our approach to these problems. Not to go to confrontate the local government, but just to show them, hey, we have a problem here. Could we try to solve it together? We didn't like to blame them. We said only, here's a problem. There is a law. You must know that the environmental law in East Germany was very good, but the reality was completely different. This law was not enforced by the government. So then we analyzed the facts and tried to force them to implement the law. And as I told you, we could not make big propaganda on Facebook because it wasn't existing at the time. So we used local newspapers. And some journalists were willing to publish our critical articles about environment. And you asked me also to talk about the obstacles. The obstacle was, of course, the fear that the Secret Service could arrest us. But I was aware about, therefore we tried to avoid direct confrontation. So just always try to follow the law and not to make any illegal activities. And our advantage was the high motivation of the most of the members of my group to do something. And if I look back, I think our strength was that we concentrated on using facts. And we discussed this very frankly with the local political and administration leaders. So they could not attack us directly because we saw, look, this water is polluted. You can smell it, you can see it. They could not say you are lying. It was there. So this was our advantage. And but despite of this, when the system collapsed in 1989, and I could study my file of the Secret Service, it was around 1,000 pages just because of environmental work. I could see that 18 spies in my group were working against me. So they were hired by the Secret Service to investigate me, my activities, to register it. And the Secret Service was preparing a file against me to arrest me, but fortunately the system collapsed then. Today the situation is different. You have big options with the internet and social media to find and to share information. But it's also easier for the other side to control you and to spread wrong information about you. But we need these actions because we have a big advantage now. The whole world can see it within seconds or minutes what you are doing. So the dictators cannot hide the crimes anymore. They will be published immediately around the world. And on the other side, I know and you know that they get more and more brutal to suppress this movement. But we have to continue to fight, even if it's dangerous for some people of you. But if we don't fight, we cannot change anything. And my hope is that we have in Gorbachev in the Chinese Communist Party one day too, that the things can be better. But it's just a dream. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, and thank you for fighting. Few years ago, 10 years ago. We are happy that you did. Yeah, I have a question from the YouTube chat, but it's more concerning OE, so let's wait for questions directly to Michael.
Yeah, I'd have a question. I thought about the issue of privacy. It seems to me that there's a difference today than it used to be in terms of, let's say, the input and output of privacy. We can obviously use, and we are using, different software which we hope will ensure more privacy than other software. I am skeptical to think that it actually works. I think it's better to always think that there might be someone in a group who's not supposed to be there, but that only concerns what is going out of the group. But we do have some privacy in what's coming into the group. That's not the case in any group, in every group. For instance, in this talk that we have here, we may not control where the information is going. In fact, we are streaming it on YouTube, but we can control who's talking. That situation is not given in a group where you want to have new activists come on board. You need open spaces for people to join the movement. And there we continue to have problem with trolls. The term means people that are basically trying to destroy the communication spaces by just communicating nonsense all the time. Do you have any experiences on that? How do you create open spaces without inviting too many trolls in it and making the open spaces collapse?
Yeah, it was, as I told you, we had not this media. So, of course, if a new member came to the group, you could not be sure if he is a spy or not. You just have to try it. Sometimes it was obviously very clear. So we said, no, when he was too stupid. But some were very intelligent, and I couldn't know it. So this is your risk, always. 30 years before and now. You have to look carefully to his or her behavior. If somebody asks too much questions, it makes them suspect. And this was in our times experience. Or with someone to declare something too intensively to convince you. This was also, take care, he could be a spy because he tries to catch you. And but you have, as long as humans work together, you will have this risk. And you have to take this risk. Otherwise, you should stop doing anything. if you mistrust everybody. Is this enough? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, obviously you're right. The problem in different, digital media is very different. But I think it's very important to think about what people are asking for, especially that if it's concerning more particular information, but also the advice of if people are advocating for certain things too harshly, it might be a trap. Because that's tips and hints for how do you not contain the information inside a group that should be inside this group, but also how do you deal with the inflow of people that you will need. Yeah. Thank you.
And also, I have a question. Is that do you think like right now we use the social medias or these self medias to advocating the activism, or to communicating with other activists like online, that those people have physically a very long distance? It is a good thing or bad thing? Because I know that a lot of like activists spend so many times on the messengers applications just to communicate inside the movements. And also we can see in this like pandemic, people turn some offline events to online ones, and it is not that easy to let people have all around like safe space to communicate. And so what do you think of this, these changes about the communication?
You mean the changes of the pandemic situation now, or the change from my communication options to now?
Yeah, your maybe 30 years.
I think you have, as I told, the social media or internet, this is a big chance to spread informations worldwide very fast. This is a good thing. The bad thing is it's used by the other side also. You know what Lawrence asked. The trolls are coming. They're using the same thing like you. But it's a little bit like a dilemma. You have to use it. I would not know you without this media, for example. But now we can talk together, even if we would be in China now. This is very good. And it is a risk, of course, because the Communist Party maybe follow us today also. And but in my time, with my options we had, I was also controlled. All my letters were copied. I found it later in my file. I don't have a phone, but some people are having a phone at this time. The phone was controlled by the Secret Service. They went in your room when you were at home, made this small, what is this in English, the Wanze, to control your phone. They built something inside. So,
bugs.
Yeah, the bug, yeah. This risk we had also. And I knew it. I knew I'm under control, but I still did my action. And so that is the way you have to do, I think. Is it enough?
And that it's a personal decision as well. So it's like, okay, we thought a lot about how to create this event and if we should go live or not, but then we thought, okay, we just have to use it, and we want to spread the word, so we did it. And yeah, we also had a decision, but we took the decision together, so I hope you're fine with this still. Yeah.
And if like online communication are less likely to create a safe space for every activist, every people who care about the climate emergency to like to trust each other, because it's very hard to know people online. So sometimes I think, yeah.
Or just the comment?
I think just yeah, comments.
Tobias is raising his hand.
Yes, I do have a question to you, Owe. So we talked a lot about the structure and things we're doing in like Germany, Europe. But I think that the question is what are you thinking? I think the question was raised a little bit before. But what was you thinking? What would help you, FFF China, the best that we can do? You said maybe we can just raise awareness in our own countries, but yeah, maybe to emphasize what you're struggling with, what you can, or what we can do about it, if we can do something about it, because we it's actually it's your decision. So yeah, it would be great if you maybe could elaborate this at 1 or 2 points.
Yeah. So one project or program I already on my head is this pair tank program, or maybe you call it body system. And because yeah, because like as the report I mentioned before, it shows that the the climate awareness is still very low in some countries, and although I believe in other parts of the world it may be also really really low, but also I think the to spread the message of the climate and ecological emergency to out of the activist community are really important, because I recently find that for future movements, there is a survey shows that active activists spend 5 hours every day to communicate in the messengers. And if we can put this time to educate people to know about the basics of the climate, actually we can educate a lot of people and spread the word to a much wider range. So I think we can also have that online online like communication with Chinese, especially young people, and because this can also improve their English. So I think this have a lot. It can be widespread. Yeah.
One question was, how do you communicate? Which chat you use? If you want to share. You don't have to, but...
Okay, so like we usually use Signal, and for the Fridays for Future International, we usually use Telegram, and it is like for instance, in Fridays for Future Germany's website, it is like have some open discussion link that you can join. So it is yeah, it is open. Some channels, yeah, some channels are open.
I got another question on YouTube. What do you think is the biggest driver of climate change in your country?
Sorry, biggest drive or
biggest driver, biggest influence?
Like, sorry, I still didn't get the question.
What's the biggest driver or influence in climate change in China? So what's the highest percentage that's producing CO2?
Oh, okay. So from the energy aspects, is that over 60% of the energy it is based on coal. So yeah, China need to like transit a lot coal power plants, and actually in 2021, the average price of building new solar power plants are already lower than building new coal power plants. So it's already reached this technological tipping point. And about in 2024, I think it is 2027, I think it is building new solar power plants. The price of it will be lower than sustaining the current coal power plants. So this is the technical tipping points. And also we see yeah, from the global aspects, like last year the the technology also helps, but there is still a lot need to do. And if we just believe that the technology can save, then it will keep the unbalanced economic model to be worse, I think.
I think there was one other question from the YouTube chat. If you'd like to answer that, Uwe, if you get in trouble with the police due to your activism.
I would say, yeah, there are some borderings, and yeah, like I got maybe 6 or 7 calls from the National Security Bureau of China, and like yeah, like my school also want me to go back to school, and under the pressure of the police. And yeah, especially like my parents are warned by their superior, if I continue to do this, then like their work will be affected, etc. And yeah, so like this kind of interrupts or harassment, but we have me already like expect this will happen, and what we can do is just to assess the risk and the influence, and try to balance these two, the influence and the risk. Yeah, and how we can do to prevent some hard situation happen, and if those situations happen, what we can do. Yeah.
I would have a question that kind of add on to that. Did the authorities mention what especially is, let's say, the problem for them? Did they make clear which part of your activism is what concerns them? Because I agree with Michael's idea that going into confrontation is not going to help. So it'd be useful to know what is the main concern for the government side, and by extension, what is not. Like, did they mention that? Do you have a clear picture of that?
Like my personal analysis about it before is that the impacts I make, especially like my appearance in international medias, like because it's very clear that every time after the like I was covered in international media, I will got calls. Yeah, and also yeah. I think it's just the media and social medias. Yeah, because they also have mentioned before about the followers on my Twitter. So just my impact, and that yeah, yeah, which also can see as the followers on social medias and the coverage on medias. Yeah.
But the group actions, when you were like a bigger group and it was not just about you, they were more fine with that, right?
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah.
What's your question? Sorry.
That it's because you as a person alone are standing there and doing all of it, and if they're more fine with the group doing their actions and the group being the power, or is it just that somebody is having power? Or is it better that a group is making impact, or better than just one person?
For me, I think it is always good to make the movement really have a lot of diversity and also very decentralized, and also build the movements in between. It is can develop the movement's resiliency to different situations. And for China, like and also recently I also read a report on like analyze on young activists in China, which the same level as like activists as me. So they their comments is that the most of the support they want to have is the support from a group, their group, and it is the rate of it. It is higher than the need of the guidance from the experienced activists, and also higher than that of the higher than that of the needs of the risk assessment. So I think from these activists, from this activist comments, I think if inside the group there are a very good culture that can support everyone, it really helps. And this report also shows that the biggest threat to these activists is actually the internal conflicts during the movement. So I think building a really regenerative culture inside the movement is a really good, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're all full of new stuff, hopefully, and we'll continue on being inspired and continue on communicating. I would like to say thank you to everyone who joined today, and I will give the word to Dijon and Alexei, of course, if you'd like to add something else.
For all of your sharing of the excellent experience. I have learned a lot from you. I think OE has learned from you too. I hope OE can in the future organize more efficiently the organization movement in China for climate protection, or is what a person not so correctly. Climate movement, and we will keep in touch to continue to support the Chinese climate movement, and we can share or exchange email address or contact with each other. Loisa has, you have an contact, so you can make a list. Or yes, thank you very much. I hope you have a still have a nice evening. It's a little bit late. Alex, would you like to say something?
I'd really like to thank everybody for sharing their experiences and everything, and thank you for being here with us. And everyone enjoy the evening, and keep on being active and fighting, and yes. Thank you very much.
Luisa, Michael hat gefragt, ob du jemanden Link.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, bye everyone.
See you. Gute Nacht.
Bye.
Night. Sollen wir noch über die, ist das Stimme schon beendet?